Welcome or welcome back to Narrative Nook Cafe. I'm happy that you could join me today. I'm going to tell you a wild story about my life. They say time heals everything, but that's not true. Time sometimes only makes people quieter about what hurt them. This is a story about a family that looked perfect from the outside. A loving mother, a gentle father, a little girl who believed she was safe, and a woman who entered our lives softly and took everything. My name is Nia. I grew up with a loving family. Our family was small, just my mom, dad, and I. My mom was an only child, and both her parents were only children as well, so she didn't have a family. I'm not sure about my dad's family because he never really talked about them. In fact, he never really talked at all. He worked a lot because he owned a small tech company, which required him to go to work early and often come home late. But I still have wonderful memories with both of my parents. Memories that end abruptly after my mom passed. My life went from sunshine and rainbows to thunderclouds and lightning bolts. This is what happened after my mother passed. I used to think houses had voices, not literal ones, but sounds that told you everything you needed to know. Ours laughed. It clapped. It sang. It echoed with music that didn't always make sense, but always felt right. For the first 10 years of my life, I lived in a house that loved me back. My mom, Kate, was the reason. She was joy in human form. She danced while she cooked. She sang while she cleaned. She turned the living room into a stage and told me to stand on the table like I belonged there. I was her little superstar. So I did. I wore plastic tiaras and oversized dresses. I bowed to imaginary crowds. And my mom clapped like I was the most important thing she'd ever seen. Because to her, I was. My dad, Brad, was different. Quiet. Gentle. A man of very few words. He didn't dance or sing or steal the spotlight. He stood in the doorway, smiling, clapping softly, watching us like we were something sacred. He loved us deeply. He just loved quietly. And for a long time, that was enough. Until my mom got sick. At first, it didn't feel real. She was tired more often. She missed steps in the kitchen. She laughed it off. Then the doctor delivered terrible news. Cancer. A word that sucked all the air out of the room. She fought for a year. A full year of hospital rooms and whispered conversations, and me learning how to be quiet when machines were talking. Even then, she tried to stay bright. I remember her holding my hand, her skin thinner than it used to be, her smile doing all the work her body couldn't. She asked me if I was still dancing. I told her yes. She made me promise something, to stay soft, even when the world wasn't. I promised. My mom transitioned on a Tuesday. The sun still came up. That part felt cruel. The house didn't laugh anymore after that. It barely breathed. My dad disappeared without leaving. He was still there, physically. Still sat at the table. Still slept in the bed. But the part of him that used to smile, that part went with her. I was 10 years old and terrified he might disappear completely. So I tried to save him. I cleaned the house until my hands hurt. I tried to cook, burned more food than I made. I carried plates to his bed like they were offerings. I put on shows alone. I was dropped off at dance recitals. It hurt not having anyone in the crowd cheering for me. It hurt even more when I was the last kid to be picked up when the other kids left with their parents to have a celebratory dinner because they were proud of their child. Eventually, I learned to clap for myself and try my hardest to be the best. To make my dad proud, because if I made him proud, maybe he would show up. Maybe he would stop being sad. Nothing worked. because there was a Kate-sized hole in my father's heart, and no child could fill it. 6 months after my mom died, something shifted. My dad laughed. Just once. But I noticed. He said there was a woman at work who checked on him, who listened. He said she was kind. Her name was Veronica. Veronica Hale. All of the love in my life evaporated when the heat of the hot mess of a woman came into my life. She worked 2 floors down for a different company. He leased out spaces to make more money. When she found out what happened, she was ready. She always had tissues, always knew exactly what to say. She spoke about grief like someone who had studied it instead of lived it. When my dad cried, she didn't rush him to stop. She told him surviving was enough. He believed her. The first time she came to our house, she brought white flowers. She hugged my dad tightly. Then she turned to me. She smiled, but her eyes didn't. She said I looked just like my mother. She paused before saying my mom's name, like it tasted strange in her mouth. That night, she stayed for dinner. She laughed at my dad's jokes, complimented the house, touched the furniture like she was memorizing it. When my dad stepped outside to take a call, Veronica leaned toward me. Her voice stayed sweet. She said the house must feel very big without my mom. She said change was hard, but necessary. I didn't have words for the feeling in my stomach. I just knew the room felt colder. I didn't know then that some people don't enter your life loudly. They don't yell. They don't demand. They smile. They wait. They replace things slowly. So slowly you don't realize anything is missing until it's gone. That was the night Veronica Hale crossed the threshold of our home. She eventually moved in with us. My dad didn't even ask me how I felt about her or her moving in. He just let the little gremlin move in. And I didn't know it yet, but that was the beginning of the silence. I didn't know my dad after that, and Veronica made sure of it. I was 11 going on 12 when the mental games progressed. I would sing while I cleaned, not loudly, but audibly. It was a habit I'd picked up from my mother. It made me feel like she was still with me. This infuriated Veronica and started yelling and telling me to shut up because I sounded horrible. I was scared. I was home alone with her, and I didn't trust her, so I didn't know what she would do. I felt a lump rise in my throat as I fought back tears, but the tears eventually made an appearance. This made her even more mad, but she waited to punish me. She was methodical. A few months later, it was my birthday. I tried to be excited about it, but birthdays weren't the same. I didn't get to wake up to my mother or my father singing me happy birthday. I had to wake up to Veronica. I smelled breakfast coming from the kitchen, which smelled delicious. When I walked in, I said good morning. Veronica didn't say anything. I looked around for the food, but there was no food for me. I asked if there was anything left, and she said with a fake smile, "You are 12 now. You can cook your own food." I knew better than to say anything, so I grabbed a granola bar and went to my room, cried, and watched cartoons. A few hours later, she would barge in and tell me to get dressed because she's going to take me to dance class. I was so excited because she didn't really take me to dance anymore. She'd lie and tell my dad that she had taken me, but it was a lie, and he didn't believe me when I told him anything about her. When we got to dance class, she told me to take a seat because she has to talk to the front desk. She disenrolled me on my birthday. My attendance had been so rare that they didn't question the disenrollment. I was distraught. When we got back to the car, I asked her why. She smirked at me and said, "You are a manipulative little girl. You're always crying to get your way. I know that you told your father that I'm not taking you to dance lessons. So now there are no dance lessons. If you think you can break up me and your father, you are wrong. You are the child of that other woman, not mine, and I do not have to do anything for you." When we got home, I heard her on the phone with my dad saying that they kicked me out of dance because I wasn't making any progress. I wasn't focused. I don't know if he questioned it, but I never went back to dance. There were many nights I was made to go to bed without dinner because I made her upset over something stupid. There was a time when I was punished for hugging my dad. I was 15 years old when that happened. She claimed that I wanted her husband. It was gross, but she took my phone and lied and told my dad that she caught me sneaking a boy into my room. So I was also not allowed to go anywhere. She was the worst person I have ever met, and I had nobody to turn to. My dad didn't believe me. My mom had no relatives. I don't know anything about my dad's family, and there were no bruises or evidence to tell the school administrators. So I made myself small, almost invisible until I went to college. For the first time since my mom passed, I felt free, but I didn't know what to do with that freedom. For years, I was punished, but being me, I was constantly told my existence was wrong. So for a while, I stayed small. It was my sophomore year when I started to find myself. I met amazing people, enrolled in different organizations that focused on the arts. I was having such a good time. I never had a desire to call my dad or go home, not even for the holidays. I'd stay on campus with others who couldn't or didn't want to go home either. I saved money and got a job and an apartment over the summer. I was my own woman. Until one day, I got a call that changed everything. They said I needed to come home, that there had been an accident. They didn't give details. They just said that I needed to get home now. The drive back felt unreal, like my body knew before my mind could catch up. I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands hurt. I remember thinking, now we will never get a chance to talk. My father died on impact. His car ran a red light. That's what they told me. A terrible accident. But the investigation was still open, so they couldn't give me any more information. Veronica was already at the hospital when I arrived. She was sitting perfectly upright, hands folded, face calm. She stood when she saw me. She cried, but quietly. She hugged me like we were allies. She said, "He loved you so much." She said it like a fact she had memorized. The funeral was exactly what you'd expect. Church full, soft music, people saying my father was a good man. They were right. That's what made it worse. He was a good man who married an evil woman who secretly tormented me when he wasn't around. Veronica wore black, the same color as her soul. The outfit was simple, elegant. She didn't sob. She didn't fall apart. She let other people do that for her. That's how she controlled the room. During the service, she spoke. Her voice didn't shake. She thanked everyone for their prayers. She said Brad had found peace again. She said grief had taught her the value of family. She looked at me when she said that. I tried to maintain my composure because I was the only person who knew that Veronica was a malevolent, unmedicated, manipulative madwoman. so I just looked down while she kept looking in my direction, just long enough for people to believe her performance. After the burial, she leaned toward me. She whispered, "I'll take care of everything now. You can disappear again." This comment made me more suspicious of her, but the thought that she might have had something to do with this scared me more than anything. I couldn't say anything. I was never believed when it was my word against hers. In the weeks that followed, Veronica moved fast. Too fast. Gathering paperwork, accounts, lawyers. She told me not to worry. She said my father trusted her. She said the will would explain everything. At night, I started listening to the voicemails I'd saved, rereading emails, looking at timelines. Things didn't line up. The accident happened on a road my father never took. The red light camera malfunctioned that night, and Veronica had called him minutes before he left the house. I didn't let on that I was skeptical of anything. Not yet. I waited, because I had learned something from her. Quiet people get away with more. The will reading was scheduled for the following Monday. Veronica wore cream that day. Not black, not mourning. She smiled like someone who already knew the ending. Veronica sat beside me, too close for my comfort. She crossed her legs calmly. She looked unbothered. The lawyer cleared his throat. He said my father had amended the will a month before his untimely passing. Veronica's smile tightened, just slightly. He said, "Your father wanted me to read this letter to you first, and it goes, 'Nia, I am so sorry that I was never the father you needed me to be. I couldn't see past my own pain, and in the process, I abandoned you when you needed me the most. I robbed you of your right to have a present and loving father because I was selfish and broken. To make matters worse, I brought Veronica into our lives without ever asking you how you felt. I didn't do anything when you told me that she was being mean and neglecting you. I was frozen with fear of losing someone I loved again. So I pretended to not believe you and just hoped that you two would get along eventually. Eventually never came, and I still lost someone I loved. I lost you. I sometimes would go on your social media to see how life is going, and I am so proud of the woman you've become. As a dad, I was supposed to protect and provide for you, and I failed. I did not protect you mentally or emotionally, and I never provided a safe space for you after your mom passed, nor did I provide my presence because I was selfish. I am truly sorry I was never the father you needed." The lawyer goes on to read the will. "To my daughter Nia, I leave her $500,000. It was the life insurance money left by my mom. He said he never spent a dime because he wanted me to have it once I was old enough. He left me the vacation home in Martha's Vineyard and full ownership of his company that made $10 million in profits last year, along with my childhood home." Silence. Veronica spoke up. "What did he leave me?" The lawyer continued to read. "To my wife, Veronica, I leave $50,000. That should be enough for a down payment on a decent home." "Veronica," because enraged, she shouted, "that isn't fair. All those years of putting up with him and that woman's child, and that's all he left me." She said my father had been confused. She said she deserved more. And then, she said the wrong thing. She said, "He wasn't supposed to change the will." The room went quiet. She tried to recover. She said the accident. She stopped. The lawyer looked up. I didn't move. I let her finish. Veronica realized too late. She had told on herself. The investigation reopened. The red light camera footage was recovered. The phone records were subpoenaed. Her calm finally cracked, just a little. Veronica Hale was arrested. She had cut the brakes in his car and paid someone to run into him. She lost everything. The money that she complained about, all forfeited. I stood in my mother's old living room months later. Sunlight on the floor, quiet but not empty. Veronica thought marrying my father would erase my mother. She thought silence meant safety, and getting rid of me would earn her a small fortune. She forgot one thing. Evil never wins. People like to believe evil is obvious, that it announces itself, that it raises its voice, that it looks dangerous. But the truth is, the most damaging people are the calm ones, the ones who wait, who listen, who smile while they erase you. Because the scariest things don't hide in the dark. They sit right next to us, and they call themselves family. Do you think my silence protected me or almost destroyed me? Tell me what you would have done. I'll be reading the comments. Thank you for visiting. See you later.